Daniel Hayes walked through the corridor of the Zithian space station with confidence. He was the captain of Earth's diplomatic team, and this mission was important. In his hand, he held a datapad with information about the trade agreement they would discuss. The station smelled like metal and something sweet that he could not name. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The corridor branched left and right. Daniel thought about the map he had studied. He needed to turn left at the next corner, then find room 447. That was where the conference meeting would happen. But as he turned, a crew member bumped into him. The man apologized and hurried past. Daniel felt confused for a moment. He looked at the numbers on the doors. 447 was somewhere close. He saw a door ahead with a code panel. The number read 447. This was it. Daniel pressed his hand against the panel. The door slid open. He stepped inside. The room was dark at first. Then the lights came on automatically. Daniel stopped. This was not the conference room. There were no tables, no chairs arranged in rows. Instead, the space looked like private quarters. Soft lighting came from crystals embedded in the walls. The air felt warm and carried that same sweet smell he had noticed in the corridor. Two figures stood by the far wall. They were Zithians. Daniel knew this immediately. Their bodies were tall and thin, much taller than humans. Their skin looked like polished glass, reflecting light in blue and purple tones. One had markings down her arms that glowed faintly. Both wore dark clothing that seemed to be part of their skin. Their eyes were large and black, with no white showing. Daniel moved his hand toward the door to leave. "I apologize. I entered the wrong room." Neither Zithian moved. The one on the left, the taller one with the glowing marks, stepped forward. "Captain Daniel Hayes," she said. Her voice was smooth but clear. Each word sounded like it was important. "We have been waiting for you." Daniel froze. This was not a mistake anymore. This was something planned. "Who are you?" Daniel asked. His hand stayed away from the door control. His military training told him to be careful. These were not ordinary soldiers. They stood too straight. They looked directly at him without fear. "I am Commander Vex," the tall one said. "This is Scholar Lyra. We blocked the door because we needed to speak with you alone." Daniel felt his heart move faster. "Block the door? I don't understand. Why would you do this? If anyone finds out, there will be serious problems for both of us." Lyra, the shorter one, moved forward now. "Because the official channels will not help us," she said. Her voice was softer than Vex's, but just as strong. "We need to speak to a human. We need to speak to you." Daniel looked at the door behind him. No guards had followed. No alarms had sounded. The station corridors outside were quiet. He made a choice. He would listen. "What do you need to tell me?" Vex and Lyra exchanged a look. It seemed like they were deciding if they could trust him. Then Vex spoke. "Captain, sit down. What we tell you will change everything you know about the Zithian people." Daniel did not sit. "I prefer to stand. Speak." Vex nodded. "The Zithian government has hidden the truth from your people. From your government. We are dying as a species. Not by war or disease that we can fight. We are dying because we cannot have children anymore." Daniel felt confused. "That is not possible. I have seen Zithian families on this station. The children you see are from 5 generations ago," Lyra said. "My grandmother had 3 children. My mother had 1 child. I cannot have any. When I was born, the doctors told my mother they were surprised I survived. Most children born in my generation do not. The genetic damage is in our DNA. It gets worse with each generation." Daniel tried to understand what he was hearing. The Zithian people were peaceful traders. They had helped humanity during the early years of space expansion. They were allies. And now they were telling him they were going to disappear. How long? Daniel asked. 20 years, Vex said. Maybe less. In 20 years, there will be no Zithian children born. Our people will grow old. We will die. In 50 years, we will be extinct. Daniel sat down. He did not mean to, but his legs no longer held him up properly. Why are you telling me this? Why not tell the Galactic Council? Because the Galactic Council knows, Vex said. Her voice became hard. They've always known. They will not help us because they want us gone. Lyra stepped closer. The older species fear human advancement. They fear your strength. They know that if humans continue to grow, you will become more powerful than they are. The Zithians are your friends. We trade with you fairly. We do not try to control you. This makes us dangerous to the Council. If they can weaken us, they weaken you. Daniel felt the weight of this information. What do you want from me? We have research, Vex said. We have data about what causes our genetic death. We have ideas about how to fix it. But the Council has blocked all research. They have prevented us from working with other scientists. They monitor everything we do. We believe humans have the science. We believe humans have the will to help us. You do not have the same political ties. You are not bound by Council rules the way we are. Daniel understood now why they had locked the door. Why they had spoken to him in secret. They were asking him to commit treason against his own government's diplomatic rules. If I help you, I will be breaking every rule I have sworn to follow, Daniel said. Yes, Vex said. We know this. Daniel looked at both of them. He saw the hope in their faces. He also saw the fear. They were taking a huge risk by telling him this. If the government security discovered them, they would be arrested. They would be punished. Maybe killed. He thought about humanity's history. He thought about the climate wars on Earth. He thought about how humans had saved each other when it mattered. When it was hard. When it cost something. I will need time to think, Daniel said. We do not have much time, Lyra said. The Council is watching us more carefully now. Soon they will arrest us. They will say we broke some rule we did not actually break. They will put us in a facility. We will disappear. This is their way. Daniel stood up. He knew what he would say before he said it. Tell me what you need. Vex's eyes brightened. Your genetic samples. Research notes. Everything we have compiled about the problem. We need you to take this back to Earth. We need you to find scientists who will work on this in secret. We need you to help us before it is too late. Daniel nodded slowly. Then we need to make a plan. And we need to start now. He had stepped into the wrong room. But now he understood it was exactly where he needed to be. Daniel spent the next 6 hours learning the truth about the Zithian people. Vex and Lyra took turns explaining, showing him data on a small portable device that could not be tracked by the station's main systems. The more Daniel heard, the more he understood why they had risked everything to tell him. The Zithian decline had started 300 years ago. A war with another species had damaged their home planet badly. Many Zithians died. Those who survived had genetic mutations from the radiation exposure. For the first 100 years, the mutations did not seem serious. Children were still born. Families still grew. But slowly, something changed. The genetic damage was passed down through each generation. It did not get better. It got worse. Children born 50 years ago still survived into adulthood, but many had health problems. Children born 30 years ago had shorter lives. Children born 10 years ago often died before they reached maturity. Children born now faced almost certain death before they became adults. Lyra showed Daniel her own medical records. She was 28 years old. but her body was already showing signs of the genetic failure. Her cells were breaking down faster than they should. She had perhaps 5 years before the damage became visible on her face. Perhaps 10 years before her body would no longer function. The doctors told me I'm fortunate, Lyra said with no emotion. Many people my age do not live this long. Daniel felt something move in his chest. It was not pity. It was anger. Why did the council not help? Why would they just let this happen? Vex answered, "Come with me. I will show you." She led Daniel to a section of the portable device with encrypted files. These files showed meetings. They were records of council discussions dating back 50 years. Daniel read through them slowly. The language was official and careful, but the meaning was clear. The council had discovered the Zithian genetic problem 43 years ago. They had watched it develop. They had done nothing. When Zithian leaders asked for research help, the council had refused. They had made excuses about resources and priorities. They had said Zithian science should handle its own problems, but there was more. The council had actively prevented other species from helping. When the Carillion scientists offered to work with Zithian researchers, the council had blocked the collaboration. When individual species tried to send medical experts, they were refused entry to Zithian territory. The council had even passed a resolution banning genetic research on extinct or dying species, a rule that applied directly to the Zithians. "They are killing us slowly," Vex said, "and they are doing it with rules and policies instead of weapons." Daniel looked up from the device. "Why? What do they gain from this?" "Control," Lyra said. "And fear. The council is old. The other powerful species have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. We have never threatened them because we are peaceful traders. But humans are different. Humans are young. Humans are strong. Humans do not accept the council's rules because humans did not ask for them." Vex continued, "The council fears that humans and Zithians together could challenge their power. If we die, humans lose a strong ally. Humans become alone and weaker. The council keeps its control." Daniel sat back. This was bigger than he had thought. This was not just about saving the Zithian people. This was about galactic politics. This was about power and control. "What happens if I help you and the council finds out?" Daniel asked. "Your government will face pressure to withdraw you from your position," Vex said. "They may face sanctions from the council. Trade agreements may be affected. You personally will be charged with breaking diplomatic protocol. You may face prison. You may face exile." Daniel was quiet for a long time. "And if I do nothing?" "You will return to Earth," Lyra said. "You will attend more diplomatic meetings. You will watch the Zithian people disappear. In 50 years, when the last Zithian dies, you will know you could have helped us." Daniel thought about Earth. He thought about his family. He thought about his career, which had meant everything to him until this moment. Then he thought about Lyra, sitting in front of him, knowing she had only 5 years before her own body would betray her. He thought about millions of Zithian children who would never be born. "Show me the research," Daniel said. "Show me what you have found." Vex and Lyra exchanged looks. Then Vex activated a new section of the device. The screen filled with complex genetic sequences and diagrams. Some were written in symbols Daniel did not recognize, but others were clear. The Zithians had spent decades trying to understand their own genetic code. They had mapped the damage. They had found the specific mutations that caused the failure. "This is the problem," Lyra pointed to a sequence. "This genetic marker appears in every Zithian born in the last 200 years. It breaks down the cellular repair systems. Our cells cannot fix themselves. Over time, the damage accumulates." She moved to the next screen. "This is what our scientists believe could work. We can't make this medicine ourselves. The Council watches everything we create. But this is a genetic therapy that we think could reverse the damage. It would need to be developed secretly. It would need testing. Daniel looked at the data. He did not understand all of it, but he understood enough. The Zithians were not asking for miracles. They were asking for science. They were asking for help. "I need to know something," Daniel said. "If I take this back to Earth and find scientists to work on it, can this actually work? Or is this hope without any real chance of success?" Vex answered, "We do not know. Nothing is certain. But we know that doing nothing guarantees our death. Trying gives us a chance." Daniel made his decision. It felt like stepping off a cliff, but he made it anyway. "I will take the data," he said. "I will find people on Earth who can work on this. I will create a secret channel to send information back and forth. But we need to be careful. We need to plan how to do this without being discovered." Lyra reached across and put her hand on his. Her skin felt strange, cool and smooth like glass. "Thank you," she said. "You are giving us hope when the galaxy has taken it away." Daniel looked at her. He thought about humanity's nature. Humans were good at many things. They were strong. They were smart. But what made humans different was their choice to help others, even when the cost was high. "We need to start tonight," Daniel said. "Show me everything." We did not have much time. Vex nodded. The Council makes their weekly security update in 3 hours. During that time, the station systems will be focused on their networks. We can transfer the data to your personal device. It will not be detected. Daniel stood up. "Then let us begin. Tell me about the people I need to find on Earth. Tell me who might have the knowledge to save your people." As the night progressed, Daniel became less and less the diplomatic captain representing Earth. He became something else. He became a man who had made a choice to do what was right, even though it would cost him everything. The Zithian people would not be forgotten. Not if he could help it. The next morning, Daniel walked into the conference room where the official diplomatic meeting was scheduled. His face showed nothing. His hands were steady, but inside, everything had changed. He was now carrying illegal data. He was now part of a secret that could end his career and destroy his life. The other diplomats from Earth were already there. There was Linda Morrison, the trade representative, and Kevin Blake, the political advisor. They greeted Daniel with smiles and coffee. None of them knew what he had done during the night. The Zithian official delegation entered. They were formal and professional. Governor Kern led the meeting. He discussed trade percentages and shipping routes. He talked about cultural exchanges and military cooperation. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. But Daniel could not stop thinking about what Vex and Lyra had told him. He could not stop thinking about the genetic data hidden in his personal device. He could not stop thinking about the children who would never be born. During a break in the meeting, Kevin Blake pulled Daniel aside. "You look tired. Everything okay?" Daniel forced a smile. "Just thinking about all the numbers. Trade agreements are complex." Kevin accepted this answer. He did not know that Daniel was lying. That night, Daniel sat alone in his quarters on the station. He had a choice to make. A real choice. Not an abstract one. A choice that would determine the rest of his life. Option 1. He could go to the Earth government and report what happened. He could tell them about Vex and Lyra. He could say they tried to recruit him into a conspiracy. The government would investigate. They would interview him. They would probably accept his story because reporting it made him look loyal. Vex and Lyra would be arrested. The council would be happy. The Zithians would disappear quietly. Daniel's career would continue. Option 2. He could proceed with the plan. He could smuggle the data back to Earth. He could find scientists to work on it in secret. He could establish a covert communication channel with the Zithians. If discovered, he would be court-martialed. He would be imprisoned. Everything he had worked for would be destroyed. His family would be ashamed. His name would be disgrace. But if it worked, the Zithians would survive. Daniel thought about Earth's history. He thought about the climate wars. He thought about how humanity had faced extinction when the oceans rose and the crops failed. He thought about the people who died. He thought about how nations had finally chosen to work together because the alternative was death for everyone. He thought about the refugees who had fled Earth when the wars got too bad. He thought about the people who had helped them, even though it was illegal, even though it cost money and resources, even though governments punished people for it. But they did it anyway because it was right. Daniel thought about his grandmother. She had been part of an underground network during the resistance against the corporate governments. She had hidden people. She had smuggled supplies. She had risked everything for what she believed in. Daniel had always been proud of her for that. What would she tell him to do now? He knew the answer. Daniel opened his personal device and reviewed the data one more time. Genetic sequences, research notes, names of Zithian scientists who had worked on the project, theoretical frameworks for the therapy that might save them. He thought about Lyra's face when she talked about her 5 years. He thought about the children who would never be born. He thought about an entire species saying goodbye to the future. He made his decision. Daniel would help them, not because it was easy, not because it would benefit his career, but because it was right. Because when you see someone drowning, you throw them a rope. You do not calculate the cost. You do not measure the risk. You save them. The next morning, Daniel sent a message to Vex using the coded system they had set up. He used a simple phrase about looking forward to seeing the botanical gardens before he left the station. It meant yes. It meant he would take the data. It meant he would help them. Vex's reply came an hour later. Another message about the gardens and how the sunset there was worth the trip. She had confirmed that everything was ready. That night, during the security maintenance window, Daniel received the complete data package. It came through a commercial trading frequency that was monitored but not closely analyzed. The encryption was built into the message format itself. Anyone scanning the message would see normal trade communication. Only someone with the key would know it contained the Zithian genetic research. Daniel copied the data to a hidden partition in his personal device. He backed it up on a memory crystal that he kept in his pocket. He created a second backup hidden in the lining of his jacket. The next day, the official meetings ended. Daniel, Linda, and Kevin prepared to leave the station. As they walked toward the docking area, Daniel saw Vex standing in a corridor. She was in her official uniform. She stood very straight. Her eyes did not make contact with his, but her hand moved to her chest over her heart. She held it there for 3 seconds. It was a gesture Lyra had taught him. It meant sacrifice. It meant debt. It meant thank you for risking everything. Daniel's hand moved briefly to his own chest. Then both their eyes shifted away. They were strangers again. On the ship back to Earth, Daniel could not sleep. He kept thinking about what came next. He needed to find someone he could trust. Someone with the knowledge to work on genetic therapy. Someone willing to break the law. He thought about Patricia Hoffman. She was a geneticist who had made headlines years ago by refusing to work for the government's genetic modification program. She had said the restrictions on research were keeping people from being saved. She had argued that science should serve life, not rules. She had lost her funding. She had lost her position. But she had never compromised. If anyone would help, it would be her. Daniel opened a secure communication channel as soon as he was in range of Earth networks. He sent a message with just a few words. It was vague enough that no one monitoring it would understand. It said he needed to discuss an urgent medical problem with a specialist and wanted to know if she was available for private consultation. Patricia's reply came within hours. She said yes. She wanted to meet in person, away from any official channels. Daniel felt something shift inside him. He was committed now. There was no turning back. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere behind him, Vex and Lyra were hoping. Somewhere ahead of him, Patricia was waiting. And Daniel Hayes, captain of Earth's diplomatic corps, had just become something else entirely. He had become the bridge between two worlds. And on his shoulders rested the survival of an entire species. The weight of it was almost crushing. But Daniel carried it anyway, because that is what humans did. They carried burdens that were not theirs to carry. They sacrificed for people they did not even know. They chose to do what was right, even when the cost was everything. He would not fail them. He could not. Part 4. The escape and return 2 days before Daniel was scheduled to leave the Zithian station. Something went wrong. A routine security scan picked up irregular access patterns in the station's data systems. It was nothing obvious. Nothing that directly pointed to theft. But it was enough to make the station security officer, Commander Cash, curious. Cash was thorough. Cash was dangerous. He started reviewing the access logs from the past week. He found that multiple stations had accessed the central archive during the maintenance window. One of those stations belonged to Scholar Lyra. The investigation was not public. But Vex knew. She came to Daniel during a scheduled tour of the research facilities. She walked past him, and in that moment, she whispered one word: danger. Daniel did not change his expression. He did not stop walking, but his mind was moving fast. The plan had always been risky, but risky was different from compromised. That evening, Daniel made contact with Vex through the secure channel. Her message was clear. Security was closing in. They would arrest her and Lyra within 2 days. They did not have time to wait. Daniel needed to leave the station tomorrow. That night, Daniel could not sleep. He lay in his quarters and thought about everything that could go wrong. The security forces could scan his device. They could find the data. They could arrest him right here on the station. Earth's government would disown him. The Zithians would be caught helping him. Everything would collapse. But Daniel also knew something else. He knew that the right time to do something difficult is never the time when it is safe. The right time is when it matters. The next morning, Daniel attended the final diplomatic session. He sat through discussions about trade routes and cultural programs. Governor Kern gave a speech about the future partnership between Earth and Zithia. It was a good speech. It talked about peace and cooperation and friendship. Daniel wanted to laugh. The council was killing the Zithian people, and their governor was giving speeches about friendship. During the lunch break, Daniel implemented the next phase of the plan. He went to the engineering section of the station, claiming he wanted to learn more about their power systems. He was given a tour by a young engineer named Tyree. The tour was long and boring. Exactly what Daniel needed. While Tyree was explaining coolant circulation systems, Daniel dropped a small device near one of the main power relay stations. The device was harmless. It did not damage anything. It simply sent out a powerful electromagnetic pulse that disrupted the station's main sensors for exactly 12 minutes. Alarms began to sound immediately. Station systems showed critical failures everywhere. The station crew panicked. Engineers ran to their stations. Security forces rushed toward the engineering section. The entire station's attention turned toward the problem. It was the distraction Daniel had planned for. While security forces concentrated on the fake emergency, Daniel moved quickly through the corridors. He did not run. Running would attract attention. He walked fast, but not too fast. He looked like a man going somewhere important, not someone escaping Dot. He reached the docking area. The ships sat ready for departure. His Earth shuttle was scheduled to leave in 30 minutes, but Daniel got it prepared to leave immediately. The docking controller, overwhelmed by the station emergency, did not ask questions when Daniel said they needed to depart early. As the shuttle prepared for departure, Daniel looked back at the station through the window. Somewhere inside, Vex and Lyra were waiting for him to escape. Somewhere inside, they were probably being questioned right now. They were probably being arrested. Daniel's hands wanted to shake. His training prevented them from shaking. The shuttle disengaged from the docking bay. It moved away from the station slowly, then faster still. Within minutes, they were beyond the station's immediate defense perimeter. Only then did Daniel allow himself to breathe. He had the data. He had escaped. The first part of the plan had worked, but Vex and Lyra were still in danger. The shuttle ride back to Earth took 12 days. Daniel spent most of that time alone in his quarters. He read the Zithian genetic data over and over again. He studied the research notes. He tried to understand the science well enough to explain it to Patricia. He also prepared his story. If anyone asked him about the station emergency, he would say he did not know what caused it. He would say the station had taken him to the docking area during the confusion. He would say he was just following their directions. It was not a good lie. But people often believe what they want to believe. On the 8th day of his journey home, Daniel received a message through the encrypted channel. It came from a trader ship passing near the Zithian station. The message was short. Just 6 words. Both are safe. Both are hidden. Daniel closed his eyes. Vex and Lyra had not been arrested. They had escaped the station before security could reach them. They were hiding somewhere, probably on a different station or a remote planet. They were alive. The debt between them grew heavier. When Daniel arrived at Earth, he did not go directly to the diplomatic headquarters. Instead, he went to a private location in the mountains, where Patricia Hoffman was waiting. Patricia was in her 60s now, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent her career fighting the system. She had lost funding and positions and respect. But she had never stopped working for what she believed in. Daniel gave her the data. Watching her face as she reviewed it on his device, Patricia was quiet for a long time. Then she looked up at him. "This is real?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel said. "This is incredible," Patricia whispered. "They have mapped the genetic structure. They understand the mechanism of failure. This is advanced work." "Who did this?" "People who are dying," Daniel said. "People who want to live." Patricia nodded slowly. She understood without needing more explanation. "If I do this, my life is over. You understand that?" "Yes," Daniel said. "I will meet a team. People I can trust. People who will work in secret for potentially nothing. People willing to risk everything. Can you find them?" Daniel asked. Patricia smiled. It was the smile of a person who had been waiting her whole life for this question. "I have always known people like that exist. I just never had a reason big enough to ask them." She stood up. "Give me 3 days. Then come back. We will need to set up secure communications with your friends on the Zithian station. We will need to establish a schedule for data transfer. We will need to plan how to conduct the research without being detected." Daniel handed her all his backups of the data. "Whatever you need, whatever you have to do, please save them." Patricia took the data in both her hands. "I will try. That is all I can promise. But I will try." As Daniel left her home, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. He had entered the wrong room. He had made a choice. He had risked everything. Now, it was time to see if that choice would mean anything. The real work was just beginning. Patricia Hoffman worked in a laboratory hidden inside a converted factory in the Canadian wilderness. The facility was old and unofficial. It had been a genetic research center 30 years ago, before the government had shut it down. Patricia had bought the land and the building years ago, waiting for a moment like this. She gathered her team quickly. There was Robert Chang, a molecular biologist who had been fired from every official research position for asking the wrong questions. There was Susan Webb, a computer scientist who specialized in genetic modeling. There was Marcus Jones, a medical technician who could handle the complex equipment they would need. These were people who had chosen to work outside the system because the system would not let them work for what was right. Patricia showed them the Zithian data on the first day. She watched their faces change as they understood what they were seeing. "This is real?" Robert asked. "It is real," Patricia said. "And we have 6 months to develop a therapy that could save an entire species." "The government will never allow this," Susan said. "No," Patricia agreed. "They will not. Which is why we do not tell the government." Marcus looked at the genetic sequences on the screen. "If we are caught, we will be charged with treason. We will go to prison." "Yes," Patricia said. "That is the cost. Anyone who wants to leave can leave now. I will not judge you." None of them left. The work was intense. They worked 16 hours a day, sometimes 20. They analyzed the Zithian genetic code. They compared it with human genetics and other species. They looked for patterns in the damage. They tried to understand not just what was wrong with the Zithians, but why the genetic failure was accelerating. After 2 weeks, Robert called Patricia into the analysis lab. He showed her the results of their modeling. "We understand the problem," he said. "The mutation is triggered by a specific enzyme that begins to degrade cellular repair mechanisms. Once the cascade starts, it becomes exponential. Can we stop it?" Patricia asked. "Maybe," Robert said. "Look at this. If we can introduce a genetic sequence that produces a different enzyme, one that blocks the degradation cascade, we might be able to reverse it." Patricia leaned forward. "Might? In theory, yes. But we will need to test it. We will need human cells that have the same genetic structure as the Zithians. We need to know if this actually works before we send it to them." Patricia understood the problem. They could not test this on human subjects without approval, and they could not get approval without revealing what they were doing. Then she had an idea. She sent a message through the encrypted channel to Vex. Vex responded 3 days later with something incredible. She sent them samples, not of Zithian biology, but of isolated Zithian cells that had been grown in laboratory culture. She had smuggled them off the station before her arrest. She had kept them alive using improvised equipment. When the cells arrived, Patricia felt something she had not felt in years. She felt hope. This was possible. They could actually do this. The testing began. They exposed the Zithian cells to the genetic therapy Robert had designed. They watched under microscopes as something remarkable happened. The cells that should have been degrading, the cells that should have been failing, began to stabilize. The genetic repair mechanisms that had been broken started working again. Marcus called it a miracle. Robert called it good science. Patricia called it the thing she had spent her whole life trying to do. After 4 months, they had it. They had a genetic therapy that worked. It was not perfect. It would take multiple injections. It would need to be refined. But it worked. Robert ran the final test himself. He took a sample of Zithian cells that had been dying. He applied the therapy. Within 48 hours, the cells had stabilized. Within 1 week, the cells began reproducing. The genetic damage was being reversed. "This works," Robert said. His voice was quiet with amazement. "This actually works." Patricia sent a message through the encrypted channel that night. One sentence. We have something for you. The message that came back contained coordinates for a remote trading post near a space station on the edge of known space. It was close enough to Zithian territory, but far enough away that monitoring was lighter. A trader ship would arrive in 2 weeks to pick up the data. Patricia and her team spent the next 2 weeks refining everything. They prepared detailed instructions for how to synthesize the therapy. They included notes on dosages, timelines, and possible side effects. They prepared everything Vex and Lyra would need to begin the process of saving their people. On the day the trader ship arrived, Daniel went to the station to make the transfer personally. He could not send it electronically. Electronic signals could be monitored. It had to be done in person, hand to hand, with complete deniability on both sides. He met with Vex on the station for exactly 12 minutes. They did not talk much. There was not much to say. Daniel handed her a data crystal and a sealed container with a backup copy of everything. Vex took them in both her hands. "The therapy works?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel said. "It works." Vex's eyes widened. She looked like she might cry, but Zithians did not cry like humans. Instead, her entire body seemed to relax. The weight she had been carrying, the weight of a dying species, shifted slightly. "How long until we can begin?" she asked. 2 weeks, Daniel said. "You need to synthesize the initial doses. The instructions are complete. Your scientists will understand them, and if we succeed, if we save our people," Daniel thought about this, "then you will survive, and the Galactic Council will discover eventually what you did. They will be angry. There may be consequences." "There are always consequences," Vex said. "But this is a consequence we can live with, literally." She reached out and touched his arm. Her skin felt cool and smooth. "You have saved us. You have broken your own government's rules. You have risked your freedom, your career, your entire future. Why did you do this?" Daniel thought about his grandmother. He thought about the climate wars. He thought about humans choosing to help others, even when the cost was high. "Because you were dying," Daniel said simply. "And I could help." It was not a difficult choice. "Not really?" Vex nodded. "Your species is strange. You save others even though you gain nothing." "We gain everything," Daniel said. "We gain knowing that we did the right thing. We gain the knowledge that another species will survive because we helped. We gain the future, knowing we made it better. That is everything." The 12 minutes ended. They separated. Vex carried the data crystal that held the hopes of her entire species. Daniel carried the knowledge that he had changed the course of galactic history. Over the next months, things happened. The Zithian government received the therapy and immediately began distributing it. Scientists worked frantically to synthesize doses for millions of people. The first injections were administered with prayer and hope. By the 6-month mark, results began to emerge. Zithian children were being born healthy. No genetic markers. No cellular degradation. The therapy had worked. The species would survive. The Galactic Council discovered what happened. They were furious. They demanded investigations. They wanted Daniel arrested. They wanted Patricia and her team imprisoned. They threatened Earth with sanctions and trade restrictions. But something unexpected happened. Other species began asking questions. If the Council had let the Zithians suffer, what else had they done? What other species had the Council allowed to decline? What other truths had been hidden? Pressure built on the Council. Species began demanding reform. They wanted truth. They wanted accountability. Daniel was eventually court-martialed by Earth's government. He was discharged from the diplomatic service. His security clearance was revoked. His government disowned him. But he was not imprisoned. Because too many people had learned what he had done. Because too many people understood that he had done the right thing. Patricia Hoffman became famous. She was offered positions at universities and research institutes. She refused them all. Instead, she expanded her laboratory. She began working on genetic therapies for other species facing extinction. Her team grew. Her work expanded. And across the galaxy, a new movement began. It started with Zithians who wanted to thank humanity. It spread to other species. It became a network of scientists and researchers working together to solve problems that the official systems would not solve. They did not have a name at first, but eventually they called themselves the Covenant of Compassion. Their rule was simple. They would work together to save species, solve problems, and do what was right, regardless of what governments said was allowed. The Galactic Council could not stop them. There were too many. They were hidden in labs and universities and trading posts across the galaxy. They had found something the Council could not control: humans' willingness to help others, even at great cost. 3 years after Daniel entered the wrong room, he received a message. It was from Vex. She sent him something he did not expect. A video message. In the video, Vex stood in a garden, and in her arms, she held a baby Zithian. The child was perfect, healthy, with no genetic markers, with a whole future ahead. "This is my daughter," Vex said in the message. "Her name is Lyra, after my colleague who risked everything with me. I am sending you this because you should know what you saved. Not just a species, a future."